Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm helping you level up your communication skills. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about why very successful individuals, artists, and people with unbreakable willpower keep reading the same book over and over and over again. In 2018, I ended up going to this one networking event, which is hosting a whole bunch of other entrepreneurs in the Tampa Bay area. And the host for this event was this extremely successful businessman who was in the later part of his career. Throughout his life, he made a whole bunch of money. Man, how do you know how much money he made? I know because he kept bringing it up. To the different people that were attending the event, he's like, "Oh, you haven't heard about me? You don't know how much money I made? Sit down. Let me inform you." Despite his overt bragging, he wasn't fooling anyone. We could all tell what the focal point of his life was. And the focal point of his life at this stage was to give back. He wanted to give back to the younger community by sharing wisdom with them. He was talking about what each individual should double down on and which tasks were meaningless. Well, around the end of the event, I see that he's stuffing his face, and for some strange reason, I was like, this is the perfect time to talk to him. So I go to him and I started asking him all these different questions. He's still eating and he's still trying to answer, but overall, everything seems half-assed. Eventually, I asked him for an exclusive insight. "Yo, man, tell me something that you haven't told everyone else in here." This is when he puts the food down. And he says, "Do less. Get comfortable with doing less. You're not lazy if you do less." I was hearing what he was saying, but I wasn't quite understanding what he was saying. And he could tell that I wasn't understanding. So he says, "Follow me." The same place that he was hosting the social was also the same place that he worked. So he was walking me towards his office. He opens the door, he turns on the light, and he points towards a certain direction. What do you see? And what I saw was a book which was open. It was resting on a book holder, and one line was highlighted orange. I told him what I saw. And then he starts talking. He says, "I've been reading this book every single day for 15 years. And you see that orange highlighted line? I've been reading that part, that line, every single day for 14 months. And every single time I read that one line, every single time I learn something new." He seemed very proud of himself as he was talking about this book. He seemed more proud talking about this book than his net worth. And as I saw the sparkle in his eye, a part of me thought, what an idiot. How could he possibly read one book for 15 years? He's proud of this? All these other books, what's going on with that? So I eventually asked him, what about all the other books out there? And he makes some clarifications. He says, "Well, I read those too, but this book, I read every single day. Other books come and go, but this book stays with me." And after pressing him even further, he says that this book is a fiction book. It has very little to do with his career in terms of business. However, he says that this book was responsible for some of his most biggest insights in regards to business. This whole interaction was leaving me with more questions than answers. And 2018 version of me did not understand what he was doing or why he was doing it. But 2021 version of me is starting to understand. What this gentleman was doing was making his mind one-pointed. And when the mind is made one-pointed in any facets of life, that's when insane creativity is unleashed, insane insights are unleashed, and a willpower is being strengthened. What is the one-pointedness exactly? is pretty much when, despite all the diversity that's presented to you, you find a way to get that diversity and harness it towards a common goal. With this gentleman, despite the variations in his life, the variations in terms of his book choices, he was able to get that one thing that he was able to center himself around. But different people, they do this in different ways. For other individuals, let's talk about a guy that's working out. He has a whole bunch of different body parts, but he's getting those body parts and he's targeting it towards one common goal. This bodybuilder is doing the same exact thing as this individual who's reading a book. He too is making his mind one-pointed, and if he sticks with it long enough, which he has to, otherwise you're not making your mind one-pointed. One-pointedness only becomes a possibility from long-term thinking. For this gentleman, it took him 15 years. For this particular bodybuilder, it may have taken him a couple of years as well. And sometimes it could be a different routine, something that you do every single day, which channels the diversity and pulls it towards unity. During that interaction with this individual, I was asking him, how did you know that this was the book for you? And his response was truly stunning. He said that the book chose him. It's like he kept reading it, but it wasn't intellectual. It was a pull that was being generated. So that was another insight. And that insight is also why I'm not going to give you a book suggestion. I believe that once the book comes, you'll know. It's not going to be an intellectual understanding. It's going to be a being level understanding. That's what happened with this individual, and he became one-pointed. Why do artists, why do successful people, why do people with strong willpower keep reading the same book over and over? Because the first time they read it, they saw words. The second time they read it, they saw pictures. The more times that they read it, the more that those pictures evolved into 3D images, and the more that they kept reading it, those 3D images turned into a life-changing, transformative experience. So if you're thinking about rereading the same book one time, don't think you're wasting your time. Dedicate a couple of years to it, and you'll be surprised why this guy, he seemed way more proud of reading that same book over his net worth. And here's the thing, his net worth was very, very high, which hammers home the principle of the importance of having that one constant in this busy life. Thank you for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.